I'm John Glanville and welcome to video 26 in the Calmness in Mind series. In this video I'll be talking about sleep, how it seems to work, how critical it is for our mental and physical health, and tips for improving our sleep, and comments on how catastrophic not getting enough sleep may be or is for our well-being. And I've purposely delayed discussing this topic until now, until you had become more aware that psychology, or we could say the science of mental health, is not really a science. Not like physics or chemistry, which is provable and repeatable. Emotional well-being is something that has so many variables and is the outcome of the deeply interconnected function of chemistry, biology, physiology, genetics, parental influences, sibling positionality, cultural inputs, religion, and how open we are to adapting skills that will enhance our ability to handle the ever-changing environment that we live in. In psychology, there's a lot of guesswork going on, and often they don't know what will happen. Different people respond differently to the same stimuli. A pandemic might scare some people, yet not bother others. In fact, might the story about an illness be more hazardous than the actual illness itself? Meaning a person might not have the illness, but because they are petrified of catching it, the fear engenders stresses in their immune system, thus making them more susceptible to any illness. And as you know, this program is all about common sense. Therefore, and undoubtedly, developing and maintaining a healthy immune system through calmness and rest is one place that I think we should definitely be prioritizing our attention and our actions. In addition, mainstream medicine is often treating the symptoms, not the causes. As I've said many times, if you have depression, most conventional doctors treat those by giving you antidepressant drugs to try and lift your mood. But they don't explore the causes: loneliness, social isolation, poverty, grief, boredom, working too hard, low self-esteem, exhaustion, trapped trauma. They're not exploring whether you are physically, mentally, and sort of spiritually fulfilled. You know, if your needs across all three of these are being met. They're likely to prescribe a sleeping tablet rather than explore in depth why you can't sleep, and then teach you what to do to return to a healthy sleep pattern. And it seems so evident to me, but many people seem to miss this. We need to treat all aspects of ourselves. Because you may be physically well but mentally ill, or mentally well but spiritually void, or any combination of these three. And I think therefore finding a balance between all three is likely to be the most effective path moving forward. And that's why what I'm teaching you here is about drilling down into the fundamental questions of how do we humans operate? How can we influence our own biology and our chemistry? Who are we? What are we looking for? And what can we do at the causational level so that over time we can engender within ourselves good symptoms like calmness, pleasure, joy, fulfillment, connection, meaning, love, and whatever it is that you are knowingly or unknowingly looking for. And as hard as this is for me to do, I've decided to stay out of pharmaceutical company strategies. I'm trying to stay out of illness and mental health as a revenue stream, and authorities using fear to restrict the free thinking of their population type arguments. Because in my mind, and I'm an idealist, in an ideal world, doctors and hospitals would be paid on how well their patients were, how often they didn't see them, how quickly they recovered from operations, how few drugs they were on, and how little of a drain they were on the medical resources, and of course how happy their patients were. And this would mean that doctors and hospitals would be teaching wellness, the value of eating healthily, taking exercise, having self-esteem, meditation, how to boost their own immune systems, and of course the essential function that sleep performs in our emotional and our physical well-being. Because what's the common link between all people with anxiety, OCD and depression? Well, it's exhaustion. They are all tired. They feel lethargic. They don't have any energy. So to me, as an engineer, my first guess where to look when you start looking to solve this problem would be to focus on sleep, the recharging of energy and the disconnection from anything that is leaching energy from you. And so although I don't claim to be a sleep specialist, I would like to share with you what I learned and how I behaved, which transformed me from an insomniac who hated sleep to a reasonably good sleeper who takes sleep very seriously indeed and who still wants to embrace and incorporate sleep even more deeply into my life. And I guess that even if you are a good sleeper, I would still urge you to watch this so you can be more aware of those you care for and perhaps influence your children into life-enhancing habits at a very young age. So my goal in this video is to give you enough information to inspire you to further explore this topic and to teach you strategies that I think are definitely worth experimenting with. My learning to embrace sleep, my changing my story about sleep, was in the top 3 actions that led me out of anxiety, OCD and depression. But know this, disrupting the body's sleep is in the top 3 weapons that your little 8-year-old uses to sabotage and trap you. So though it's not easy, okay, I think this is a struggle worth winning and worth putting the effort into. Now, I was told that as a child I would only sleep for a few hours each night. And until about 15 years ago, the story I told myself was that I didn't need much sleep. I was a night owl. I could and would sometimes not even go to bed if I was working on a project or having fun with my friends. I could go to bed late and still get up early for work. I could handle jet lag. I could just work through it. You know, I could pick up any slack on a project and I could just keep my head down and get things done. I used to tell myself there was no point trying to sleep on an aeroplane as I couldn't do it. So I rarely even tried. I just watched the films and I drank their wine. I hated Saturday nights as I would spend most of the night just awake, just ruminating over the upcoming week, getting more and more frustrated as I needed sleep but couldn't get it. And then I would fall into a deep, deep sleep only to be awoken an hour later from a deep slumber by my alarm clock. And although I never felt rested when I awoke, I would just jump in the shower, slurp down some coffee, and that was my process of waking myself up. And if there were any distractions in the room, like noises, or the room being too hot, too much light, people snoring, or noise around me, this would drive me mad. And they would become the focus of my attention and the projection of my blame of why I was unable to sleep. I believed I was a poor sleeper, and that was that. Unlucky me, you know. And I wouldn't say I liked it, but there was a point within me that just accepted, because I thought there's nothing I could do about it. I really hated sleep. I disliked going to bed. I hated lying awake all night, and I honestly thought that I didn't need much sleep. And worse still, okay, I thought there were no consequences to pay for my sleep deficit. Also, if I napped in the afternoon, I'd go into a deep sleep and then feel groggy all evening, and I wouldn't be able to sleep that night. So I avoided napping too. You could say my attitude towards sleep was that it's not very important, that it's quite a nuisance in my life, and those who could sleep were just lucky, or perhaps even lazy. And then in 2007, 3 things happened simultaneously which became the catalyst for a massive transformation in my attitudes and my behaviors towards sleep. The first one was working for myself, starting my own company. And when I decided to run my own company, I thought, what rules could I put in place that would really suit me, okay? That would suit my happiness, which would be hard to have if I was working for other people. And the first 4 rules that I came up with was, number 1 is that I wouldn't see clients on Friday evenings or weekends. The weekends were for me. Number 2, I would spend at least 1 hour per day during work time to learn something new each day. And the third one was I would never interrupt what I was doing to answer the phone. And the third one was my work day wouldn't start before 10 a.m. And it's that last point that's interesting. Because I no longer had to get up at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning to travel to an office, I could allow myself to wake each morning naturally. And my natural waking time turned out to be between 8:30 and 9:30 each morning. Now my brother, he also works for himself. He naturally wakes up about 5 o'clock in the morning. He's genetically a lark and I'm genetically an owl. It's just the way it is. Neither is right or wrong. It's just our makeup. He adapts that behavior to his company and I adapt my innate behavior to mine. Perhaps it's harder for an owl, I don't know, because life tries to get them up early for school or for work, and society wants everybody to fit into this sort of early morning routine, and I don't think it suits owls. To this day, I rarely use an alarm clock. I go to bed between 11:30 and 12:30, and I wake up naturally between 8:30 and 9:30. Now, the second thing that happened was I studied how to meditate. I retrained myself to see that thoughts were of the mind was of the brain, and the brain was of the body. And that I was consciousness, the observer, the awareness that was witnessing those thoughts as they come up. And this stopped me from getting caught up in the thoughts and taught me that I didn't need to find answers to the mind's incessant questions. They weren't my problems. They were problems of the mind. They say ignorance is bliss, or perhaps a better way of looking at it comes from the great spiritual teacher J. Krishnamurti, who when asked why are you always happy, he replied, I don't mind what happens next. And the Buddha said, the root of suffering is attachment. And I was so slowly sort of learning and slowly seeing that my observer could let go. My observer didn't have to have any opinions. My observer could just forget and forgive. Okay, but my little 8-year-old, my ego, he had an opinion on everything. And in the early days, I said to one of my meditation teachers, I said, I'm enjoying learning how to meditate, but I don't really have enough time to apply it as I'm often too busy. And she reminded me of the wise proverb that says something like, I try to meditate for at least 30 minutes each day, unless I'm far too busy, because then I like to meditate for an hour each day. And she said, make time for it. If you're too busy, then you're doing too much, do less. And she also said, you told me you're a bad sleeper. Why don't you use that awake time at night to practice meditation? And she added that she spent 10 minutes as she dozed off to sleep reminding herself what was essential, and 10 minutes as she woke up consciously reminding her unconscious mind what she needed from it for the upcoming day. So I began to copy her. And although it took me a long time to form that behavior, it was life-changing when I did. Now the third thing that happened, and it's funny how life seems to give you just what you need just when you need it, is a friend lent me a book about sleep. And in it, it said something like, we can live without air for just a couple of minutes, and about 3 days before we die without water. And no person has ever slept gone more than 11 days without sleep, without dying. And as silly as it sounds, I'd never classified sleep in the same category as life-giving factors such as air, water, and food. No person has ever lived more than 11 days without sleep and not died. We can live longer without food than we can without sleep. And I'd never even thought about these things. The Guinness Book of Records has even stopped reporting on the record for staying awake to stop people attempting it because it's too dangerous. Plus, there is tons and tons of evidence that points to poor sleep causing weight gain, which may cause distress, which may cause anxiety, which may cause poor sleep. And of course, the pattern goes around and around, okay? But who thinks about focusing on sleep as a serious part of a weight loss program? Well, I do. And although, as a therapist, I don't work with weight loss, it's a subject that does fascinate me. And a pattern that I've seen repeatedly over the years is when an overweight person's partner passes away, they often lose weight. Okay, and not only lose that weight, they keep that weight off far more easier than before. And it's often crossed my mind that whether during the relationship when they shared a bed, the person trying to lose weight had encountered disrupted sleep from the other person snoring or breathing heavily or having an antisocial sleep pattern. So many clients have complained to me that they don't sleep well, because their partner is snoring or some other noise. And when I say to them, well, go and sleep in the spare bedroom, they say, I can't do that, we always sleep together. Or they say, oh, my cat woke me up this morning as he was fidgeting on the bed. And I say, well, put your cat in the kitchen. And then they say, yeah, but he always sleeps with me, he likes it. Well, maybe the cat does like it, and maybe you are married and have always slept together. But a more well-being biased way of looking at this is my body getting the life-sustaining, deep, uninterrupted sleep it needs? And if not, okay, what beliefs, habits, or stories do I need to change within myself to allow this to happen? In my own case, this led to my partner and I having separate bedrooms for 7 years until my sleep patterns had become normalized and reformed, we might say. Everything is linked. We need balance. Work 8 hours, play 8 hours, sleep 8 hours. So at that time, I was waking up to the concept that mind, body, and spirit should all be working together. Fuel, rest, repair, growth, connection, love, meaning, purpose. And I needed to find out how to incorporate all aspects of that into my life. And sleep was the bit that I had been ignoring. Whilst at the same time, I was being programmed by society, TV, mainstream media, and my peers to achieve more, work harder, play harder, stimulate myself with caffeine and alcohol. They say things like, sleep is for wimps, real leaders only need 4 hours sleep and crap like that. Well, they are not the conditions the human body was designed to thrive in. Okay? And there are high prices to pay for not getting enough high quality sleep. Imagine you heard this commercial on the radio. Amazing breakthrough. Scientists have discovered a revolutionary new treatment that makes you live longer. It enhances your memory, makes you more creative, it makes you look more attractive, keeps you slim, lowers your food cravings, it protects you from cancer and dementia, it wards off colds and the flu, it lowers your risk of heart attacks and stroke and diabetes, and you will feel happier, less depressed, and less anxious too. Are you interested? And most people wouldn't believe it, or they would pay large sums of money to get that solution. But these are the provable facts about getting a good night's sleep, documented in over 17,000 scientific reports. But of course, who would financially benefit from you being well and healthy through something as freely available and cheap as sleep? So this, it seems, is why sleep is so rarely discussed. And those who do sleep a lot are often called lazy, which is crazy. And as crazy as it sounds, it's almost as if the powers that be don't want you to think clearly or be naturally well. As I've said before, I think doctors in the medical world do the most incredible things. But I can't see why common sense escapes those organizations. Why would doctors be worked so hard and be so sleep deprived when we have scientifically provable evidence that lack of sleep impairs judgment and biological health? I mean, I don't understand it. Let me give you some more facts. Men who sleep 5 hours or less have significantly smaller testicles than those who sleep for 7 hours or more. Men who sleep for only 4 to 5 hours per night will have reduced levels of testosterone like a man 10 years older. So lack of sleep will age a man by a decade. And unless you get high quality sleep after you learn something, your ability to retain information becomes compromised. Just missing 1 night of sleep reduces the brain's capacity to make new memories by 40%. Now, in my capacity as a therapist, some of the most common statements I hear are based on memory and learning. Things like, well, I just can't retain information. I'm just finding it impossible to revise. Yeah? My brain is all foggy. There's no point me trying to read that because I just keep looking at it and keep looking at it and keep looking at it, and I forget everything that I read. And it turns out that deep sleep conditions the brain to be open to learning and to memory. And poor sleep inhibits the brain's capacity to learn and retain information. You could say that deep sleep benefits the transfer of data from short-term memory into long-term memory. Yeah? And research is now revealing high correlations between poor sleep and dementia. Now, I was always told that older people need less sleep, but now we know that's false. They need just as much sleep as any other adult, okay? And the older people who get the most sleep have fewer medical ailments. You know? Consistently attaining 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night, deep sleep every night, shows to be a significant factor in wellness. I mean, really, this should be quite obvious, but you know, still for some reason, many people are in denial of the absolute importance of sleep, which of course dogs and cats and hamsters intrinsically know. I know this to be true because 15 years ago, I didn't think about sleep. It was a pain in the neck. It was a nuisance. But there's a price to pay. In the spring, when clocks go forward 1 hour and we lose an hour of sleep due to daylight saving, during the following day, there's a 24% increase in heart attacks. Such is the measurable effect that less sleep has on our bodies. And conversely, in the autumn, when we gain an extra hour of sleep, heart attacks diminish by 21% the following day. And there are other studies too, show that men who napped for 90 minutes each afternoon and then who slept well at night had 4 times fewer heart attacks and lived longer than men who didn't. And for students revising for exams, it's been proven, okay, that it's more effective to sleep well, then revise during the day and then sleep well again, rather than staying all night trying to cram all that information into the brain. It seems that the first night of sleep empties the brain's short-term memory, the revision fills up the short-term memory, and then the second night of sleep converts that short-term memory into long-term memory and empties the short-term memory ready for use the next day. It's been proved that learning this way can increase memory by 40%. Just by using the brain the way the brain was designed to be used, rather than thinking we know best. Good quality sleep extends your life, reduces illness, and positively affects mood. Can you see how, if you're a bad sleeper, forming a wonderful new relationship with sleep will be enormously enhancing your life? In 2007, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, a part of the World Health Organization, classified the disruption of circadian cycles by shift work as a probable human carcinogen. Okay, now this is important. It's important information, but for some reason, people are not getting it. We're not getting this information from doctors and from schools or from the mainstream media. Now, as you do this research, you'll be introduced to circadian rhythms and your chronotype. Circadian rhythms are the body's natural cycle of being awake and asleep. And of course, if you're trying to sleep at a time when your body is awake, then sleep will be more elusive. So it makes a lot of sense to understand your cycles and to organize your life around them. And then we have chronotypes, which are how we might label certain groups who have similar circadian patterns, like larks who like to get up early and go to bed early, and owls who tend to sleep later and awaken later. And there's thought to be about 6 chronotypes that cover things like a morning type, an evening type, a highly active type, a daytime sleepy type, a daytime type, and a moderately active type. And I suggest that you research your circadian rhythm and your chronotype, because I'm urging you to not fight your own biology, to recognize it within you, okay, and then to align yourself with it. We see it in babies and pets, their sleep patterns, their eating patterns, their bathroom patterns. We know which part of the day they're most playful and which part of the day they're likely to be most grumpy. Plus we know if our children miss sleep, there'll be a price to pay the following day. Well, it's the same within us, by our emotional fluctuations and our health implications. But once again, we just seem to ignore it. I believe that the lack of sleep and the overstimulation of our bodies and minds, both during the day and night, is really, really plaguing our health worldwide. In my experience, sleep is not taken as seriously as it should be by those who are experiencing anxiety, OCD and depression. And I would urge you to spend 6 months to a year taking sleep really seriously. And though hard, I think it's one of the most beautiful and loving things that you can do for yourself. Now, one last thing in this section. Because we are biologically driven by our circadian cycle, once we understand it and once we align with it, it will mean that the time we go to sleep and the time we get up should be as much as possible similar and maintained all through the week. As I said earlier, I try to operate between a constant sleep window between 11 o'clock and 9 o'clock. However, this may cause some significant changes in your life, but I think that they are worthwhile taking. You know, it may mean that you have to talk to your employer about starting earlier or starting later, or exploring different shifts that might be more suited to your chronotype. At very least, looking to add a nap to your day if your job and your cycles are not compatible. But remember, it's your job that's not compatible, not your natural cycle. I think if I were unemployed or had anxiety and couldn't work, I would still get up and go to bed in line with my circadian cycles. I would still be living to the adage 8 hours working, 8 hours playing and 8 hours sleeping. And though I might not have a job, I would still be doing something creative, learning something new, or giving my time for free in an organization to try and get more knowledge and experience. Plus, if you're awake during the night, chatting in forums, watching videos or playing video games, then biologically speaking, you're probably harming yourself to a degree far exceeding that which you have ever been taught. And I don't want to scare you here, but I want to talk about the facts. So before I discuss things you can do for better sleep, it's worth outlining some basics of how sleep works. But once again, I'm urging you to go and do this research for yourself. And one quick point that I need to make: resting is not sleeping. They're entirely different things, okay? So don't kid yourself that just because you had some rest, that you'll be fine. So we sleep in approximate 90-minute cycles, with about 5 of these cycles being optimum for our health, meaning between 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night. The cycle begins with a light sleep called end stage 1, which deepens to end stage 2, then deepens again to end stage 3, where we are in the deep slumber that is incredibly restorative and vital for our physical bodies. We then move into the REM phase of sleep, denoted by our eyes rapidly moving from side to side. Our bodies become temporarily paralyzed as our brains become very, very active in the state that we call dreaming. Simply put, during this phase, the brain reviews all the information from our short-term memory, all the things we learned and all the things that happened to us yesterday. It takes all the lessons and learnings and decides what will be stored as long-term memory and what will be discarded. That information is then logged in the long-term memory, and the short-term memory is cleared out, ready for new information to be added in the next day. And I think it's worth reminding you of 2 things here. Firstly, if you're not getting enough sleep, the short-term memory doesn't get fully emptied, so there's less space to learn new things the next day. And what you did learn the previous day is often not converted into long-term memory. And this, I think, can be seen as the fogginess or the forgetfulness that many anxious or depressed people seem to experience. They think the anxiety is causing it, but it's the lack of 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep needed for your brain to function optimally. And as I explained in video 18, the second point is, what does the brain use to decide which information passes from short-term memory to long-term memory and what gets thrown away? Okay? It's the RAS, the reticular activating system, which you could say are driven by your belief systems. Therefore, any work you can do to consciously retrain the unconscious RAS part of your brain can and does enhance your life enormously. And it may be worth going back to watch video 18 once you've seen this. Let me give you an example, okay? Training your unconscious mind to move from pessimism to optimism, from glass half empty to glass half full, from seeing all the things that could go wrong in life to seeing all the things that could go right in life. Can you see that we're breaking the old addiction to fear that many anxious people experience and updating the negative outlook which many depressed people experience to one of more positivity? Sleep is the catalyst that embeds all of this knowledge discussed in all of my previous videos, and it's the missing link in physical and mental health well-being. It's so worth the effort to do this stuff. I just cannot tell you strong enough. Okay, back to the first cycle. In the first cycle, the end stage sleep is the majority, and the REM stage is the short period at the end. But as each cycle progresses, the REM sleep increases in length until by the last cycle, it's a little bit of end stage and mostly REM sleep. Okay, very crudely put, the first half of the night is restoring the body, and the second half of the night is restoring your brain. But the important message that I need to get across to you is that you need both. Right? And this is why 4 hours, 5 hours, yeah, it's good at some levels, but it's not, you don't get the whole package. Okay. So, as each cycle ends, each 90-minute cycle ends, you may temporarily wake up or just slide into the next cycle. Okay. That's why in those moments, if you're awakened between cycles, try to keep still and calm. Avoid reaching for your phone or getting up. Try to keep your attention away from your thoughts. Try to avoid any stimulation so you can easily slip back into the next cycle. And if your partner is snoring, jump into the spare bed, get some sleep, and then talk to them about what you can both do about the snoring in the morning. Now there's one bit of good news, okay? Very often poor sleepers can have 1 or 2 of these 90-minute cycles and not realize it. This was something that really surprised me back in my poor sleeping days. You know, I used to have an illuminated digital clock in my bedroom that would drive me mad, okay? And knowing how long I'd been awake and how few hours left for me to get any sleep each night. But once I learned that we slept in these 90-minute cycles, I could see that at one moment it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and then suddenly it would be 4:30, okay? We often have 1 or 2 of these cycles, but we don't realize it, we don't know it. And the good news is that sometimes poor sleepers may be getting more sleep than they think, and just knowing that may alleviate some of their worries. There are many YouTube videos on sleep cycles, circadian rhythms and chronotypes, and I would really urge you to go and check them out. Now, one final thought in this chapter is that the hypnagogic kind of moments before we go to sleep and the short period as we awaken where we're all groggy in the morning, our brain operates in slow theta waves, and these are optimal times for unconscious learning. And this is why consciously reprogramming your unconscious mind and your RAS for what you do want from life are so powerful at these times, and why I'm urging you to have a nodding off and a waking up routine to use each night. So as I decided to take sleep seriously, I broke it down into a few steps. The first step was to work on my attitudes towards sleep. Remember how I talked about attitudes in video 24? And that when you want to change something in your life, you must keep talking yourself into it. So my internal dialogue became far more positive, okay? Saying to myself that I was looking forward to going to bed, that I was expecting to sleep, and that even if I was awake, I'd be saying, I'll be asleep again soon. I was talking and thinking like a good sleeper within my own head, regardless of the current truth of what was happening at that time, because this is how you begin the process of change. Then I had to explore where this new attitude sat within my hierarchy of needs. The example I used in past videos was that my weight is more important to me than food, okay? And that both my health and my relationship are more important to me than my job, okay? So if my job was negatively impacting my health or my relationship, okay, I would adjust how I did my job, or take a break from working, or change my job, or maybe just see my job as a career, as a job rather than a career, to lessen the degree of responsibility I assumed, rather than compromise my health or my relationship. And I suggest that it's really useful for you for a while to bring sleep right up near the top of your needs hierarchy, just for a while. So everything you do is factoring the impact of what it may have on your ability to sleep and the time available for you to sleep. I hope this is making sense. Let's go explore some facts now. What are proven facts that we know that will enhance sleep? Okay, whereby, because we know they're true and they're proven, it would be foolish for us to not follow them. Okay, even if they meant making some significant changes within your life. The first one is caffeine, like in coffee, tea, green tea, fizzy drinks, sports drinks, chocolate, cocoa, and many supplements. Okay. And careful too, because many decaffeinated drinks still contain caffeine, just less caffeine than their full caffeine counterparts. So I would suggest be sure to check the labels. Now, the stimulant caffeine attacks and neutralizes the chemical adenosine, okay, which is the one that causes sleep within us. Okay? Therefore, any substance that stops us from sleeping needs to be avoided, especially if we will spend 6 months focusing our attention on sleep. Let me say this again, okay? Caffeine will make it harder for you to sleep well. End of argument. In addition, caffeine has at least a 7-hour half-life, meaning it takes 7 hours to diminish half its effects. So a coffee after a meal at 8 in the evening will still be turning your sleep off at 3 o'clock in the morning. Okay, so I would certainly recommend that you cut out caffeine completely, or at least stop its intake after lunch. From my own experience, stopping caffeine after lunch made a big difference to my sleep. But when I stopped it completely, I was really shocked. I mean, really shocked at how further improved my sleep became. However, stopping caffeine gave me a 3-day headache, which also showed me how unknowingly I was addicted to caffeine via coffee, tea, chocolate and soda drinks. And when I hear people say, oh, I need my coffee in the morning, I got to be honest, it makes me feel a little sad, because that means they're not getting enough sleep. Okay? And what they're using to stimulate themselves into action is also stopping them from getting more sleep. And as I keep saying, right, if emotional wellness is your goal, we need to break these patterns. Now, another substance that disrupts sleep is alcohol. However, it does it in a different way. Alcohol does aid you to fall asleep sooner. However, it deeply disrupts the depth and the length of your sleep. Therefore, any benefit of getting to sleep quickly is quickly negated by the poor quality of sleep that you'll subsequently have. So if you're looking for a good night's sleep, it's best to drink alcohol in the late afternoon or the early evening, or really to avoid it completely. And as I keep saying, we need to prioritize what's important to us. And I urge you to make sleep one of your highest priorities for 6 months or so, because you will be amazed at what happens. I'd also like to say a few things about computer games, because so many people play them. They're cool, they're exciting, they pass the time, they may connect you to others, and they may distract you from anxiety and stop boredom. However, when it comes to anxiety and sleep, they should be avoided, or at least limited to that 8 hours in the middle of your circadian rhythm, furthest away from sleep. You need to leave a gap of at least 4 hours to calm down before sleep. Because as far as your body is concerned, these games are real. Whether you're shooting up the enemy, scoring a goal, winning the Grand Prix, or completing a level in Candy Crush, the emotions you get of excitement and frustration come from your body dosing you with chemicals, many of which are just not conducive to sleep. And secondly, your brain gets addicted to or used to the need for stimulation, and therefore it's much harder for you to do nothing, to just sit calmly and just be with yourself, which of course is a calm state that is good for the mind and good for the body, which is why I'm kind of asking you to think more about meditation. And I will be making some videos about meditation in the future. Now, other actions that help facilitate better sleep include stopping eating 4 hours before bed, perhaps a warm shower before bed, and avoiding drinking too many fluids to avoid yourself having to get up in the night and use the bathroom, which of course breaks your sleepy state. And finally, a few words about your sleep environment, okay, which I feel is of paramount importance, okay? And I think you should take action where possible to make it sleep friendly. However, I appreciate you may face environmental or financial constraints, but do your best. Because darkness triggers the release of melatonin, the hormone that triggers the whole sleep procedure, the darker you can make your room, the better. Blackout blinds, blackout curtain linings, they're actually quite inexpensive, and they make a tremendous difference to the quality of your sleep. If not, a good quality sleep mask can make a big difference, though it may take a day or two for you to get used to wearing it. And if any stories come up in your mind like, oh, I hate dark bedrooms, they scare me, or if I had a mask on, that might frighten me, I'd feel out of control, consider that these might be the unconscious little 8-year-old sabotage that I've spent so much time discussing with you throughout this whole series. These are usually out-of-date stories, and they can be challenged. Of course you can do those things, okay? You're an adult, just get on with it, own these things. And interestingly, the body cools by about 3 degrees as it falls asleep. So a cooler bedroom is better than a warmer one. And wearing fewer clothes helps that as well. Where possible, a comfortable mattress, pillows, and a duvet, I think, is money well spent. Personally, one of my luxuries in life is high-quality down pillows, a very light yet warm duvet, and quality cotton bedding. Each time I slip into bed, it feels lovely, and I'm comfortable. And I like a big bed too, okay? And because I spent a third of my life in there, I want it to be as comfortable as I can make it. Can you see what a positive attitude this is? In the past, I never considered the comfort of my mattress and would have been horrified at the idea of spending £80 on a pillow. But these days, I embrace my sleep. My bed is more important than my car because I spend more time in it. When I stay in hotels, I'm reminded of how wonderful my bed at home is, okay, and the vast difference a quality pillow and a quality mattress makes for deep sleep. Another personal thing is I refuse to have a TV in my bedroom. My TV is in my living room, and that's where I watch TV. My bedroom is for sleeping, and I don't want any distractions that can pull me away from my focus on my slumber. And the final thing to consider is, do you want or need your phone, PC or tablet in your bedroom? If you use your phone as an alarm, well then buy an alarm clock, they're really cheap, okay? And leave your devices in another room so you won't be tempted or distracted by them or bathed in their radiation field as you sleep every night. Can you for 6 months make your bed the place you go to sleep with as few distractions as possible, and a place where you learn to practice rest and quiet meditation until sleep comes upon you? And if you're awake between sleep cycles, you can use that relaxing time to stay calm, avoid your thoughts, and retrain your mind whilst you silently lay in darkness, creating the best possible environment for sleep to return. Okay then. So in this final part of the video, let me outline some things you can do as you go to sleep, or if you can't sleep, or if you are awake during the night. Starting with the lead up to sleep. I would have stopped the consumption of caffeine by 2 p.m. and alcohol and computer games by about 7 p.m. And I would have stopped eating by about 8 p.m. Between 8 p.m. and bed, I would read, watch TV, go for a walk, socialize, do whatever you need to do. And then an hour before bed, start winding things down. Dim the lights and try not to stimulate your body in any way. 30 minutes before bed, sit down and do the decompress your day tapping routine that I outlined in video 14. And so you can get there quickly. It's video 14 at about the 33-minute mark. And for those of you who can get to sleep relatively easily, I would suggest that you use that short time to tell your unconscious mind what it is you're looking for in life. Once again, as I outlined in video 18, from about the 17-minute mark, where I teach you how to keep consciously talking yourself into what you want from your life, stated in the positive, with the outcomes you desire and the mindset that you wish to use. Yeah? And if you've designed your vision board, this is the time you pull it up in your mind and you visualize all those things happening, and you try to feel within yourself the emotions you would as if they'd already happened. And for those of you who don't go to sleep quickly, well then lucky you, because it gives you even more time to do this deeper programming with your visions and your outcomes. And I will put a quick note in here about vision boards. As wacky as they seem, they work. And I think they work for two reasons. Firstly, you have to know what you want from life to actually make one. So this act alone forces you to articulate your intentions. And secondly, it retrains your unconscious mind's RAS, which controls about 95% of what you do every day. So you spend 10 minutes or so consciously reminding your unconscious mind and the RAS of what you want it to do, what you want from it, okay? And once you've done that, I would suggest a period of quiet stillness. And what I mean by that is a period whereby you place your attention on your body and not the thoughts of the mind. Practice keeping your attention on a toe or both hands, okay? Become fascinated with the feelings and sensations within your body, but give them no meaning, okay? Train yourself to keep the focus of your awareness on your body, not on the thoughts that arise from the mind. I know I've told you this before, but this is the skill that you need to learn, okay? If a thought grabs your attention, you just smile, you let it go, and you place your attention back on your body again. Now, if this is too hard, just keep your attention on your breath, on your breathing, okay? Will it be boring? Yes, of course it'll be boring. Boring is good, because boring brings on sleep. So, after a while, if you still can't sleep, or the thoughts about tomorrow events are loud in your head, know this. There is nothing you can do about those things because you are lying in bed. They'll probably still be there tomorrow. So you gently and repeatedly say to yourself, I accept these issues, or I surrender to what is, or this is not my problem. Stop looking for answers or solutions, because this is the anxiety and depression trap. Your solutions will come from tomorrow's actions, not your thoughts in this moment. So many people, they fail to recognize that as you sleep, all those problems are fed into the supercomputer of the incredible unconscious mind, and it will find solutions that will just appear to you the following day. We've all done it, where you go to bed with an unsolved problem only to have a brilliant solution pop into your head as you're in the shower the next day. Yes, because sleep is the faculty that allows this natural process to work. However, we muddled 21st century humans think we are doing the thinking, but we're not. It's all connected, okay? It's an electrical, biological, chemical and genetic system, and sleep is the glue that holds it all together and makes it work. And we must learn to trust and embrace this. So during sleep times, if we're awake, we're learning to trust ourselves, to trust our brains. We try to get out of the mind's way. We are just watching the musings of the mind as it swirls everything around in short-term memory, ready for the process of sorting, aligning, pattern matching, and solving that will be done during the 5 stages of deep NREM sleep that the individual lets the body have the luxury of that necessity. I hope this is making sense, okay? Your job as you lay awake at night is just to realize that in this moment called now, none of these things matter, because all of those things are virtual reality stories about the future, okay? when all that matters right now is sleep. So we are lovingly and silently saying to ourselves, I accept that right now this is out of my control. Or if a person has annoyed us, we say, I forgive that person, as I don't want to agitate myself anymore with that story. And as I said in an earlier video, one ploy that worked really well for me when I had a race in mind was to just say, I don't know. The mind might be saying, well, what will happen if you lose your job? And I'd lovingly say, I don't know. What if that person dies? What will you do? I don't know. Who said I should know? Moreover, it's a virtual reality story, so I don't need to go there. Can you see how we're learning to be calm and still, regardless of our thoughts, okay? Thereby attempting to create the best environment for sleep to prevail. Let me give you some more things that you can try to use during this rest time so you can use it wisely. If you're awake, stay still and start running through your mind all the things that you feel grateful for. Now, years ago, I used to scoff at routines like this. However, these days, I'm shocked at how effective this procedure is for changing attitudes and perspectives that shake off depression. I'll even be making a video about it sometime. As I've said 1,000 times, there is the world out there that we can't control, and then the world inside our heads that we can profoundly influence from a place of lack to a place of beauty and positivity. You could be in prison and feel miserable, or you could be having an okay time remembering beautiful events from the past and envisioning a lovely, beautiful future in the future. One story will make you sad and dump sadness chemicals within you. The other will make you feel good and release feel-good chemicals within you, regardless of the truth of what is happening around you. We are learning to make the inside job a good one, with nice stories, optimism and positivity. And gratitude is a great place to start, regardless of what's going on in the real world. So as you lay there, you gently and lovingly say to yourself, I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for my home. I'm grateful for the fact that I have food. Grateful for the fact that I have a bed, water, electricity, sanitation, a family. The list can go on and on and on. Really connect with positivity and stay out of negativity. It's quite a skill to master. And remember, it's not about what's right and wrong, good or bad. It's about making the space inside your head as lovely as you can make it. You're learning to be nice to yourself. Can you remember how in video 22, I said people treat us the way we have trained them to treat us, okay? That they have it's like a virtual reality story of who they think we are, and they treat us accordingly. So I think another excellent use of this quiet downtime is to practice what behaviors we might adopt to update how the world might see us and how the world might interact with us. To practice in the safety of your mind what it might be like to be braver, more assertive, more creative, more loving, to actually ask for what you want, to look at all the people in your life and ask yourself things like, how could I make their lives happier? Or what behaviors could I adopt that will change how they treat me, or how I would like the world to see me? Therefore, how would I need to behave so that the world's virtual reality story of me is updated? Your mind is a beautiful, safe practice arena where you can jump from person to person, trying to see the world from their perspective and your role within it. And you can practice being more warrior, being more nomad, just for fun. But remember this, in this practice arena, the fact that you're doing this is also updating your RAS, which may lead to powerful new behaviors. Your unconscious mind can't tell the difference between you imagining it or you doing it. Like if you put on a virtual reality headset. And finally, a note about boredom. A few days ago, I was awake for what felt like quite a long time in the middle of the night. But that was okay. I just laid there. I had no story in my mind. I was just quiet. It was calm. Nothing was happening. Right? right? Nothing needed to happen, okay? I didn't need anything to happen. The body felt okay. I knew sleep would come sometime. It was a nice, calm, quiet experience during the night. You know, a pleasant gap between sleep cycles. And I'm saying this because 10 years ago, that would have been so boring to me that I would have hated it. It would have driven me mad needing to sleep or worrying about this and worrying about that. I would have turned that time into a hellish experience. I guess that I have just learned to be okay with myself. To be okay with no thoughts, no opinions. You could say just calmly being, like a dog or a cat might do. Or another way of looking at this is, I have no opinions or worries during this rest time, even though my little 8-year-old might. But that's not my problem. I managed it, so I know it's possible. But it takes effort. It takes repetition. It takes new attitudes. And it takes breaking the old cycle of avoidance, distraction, or medication. And one last comment. In the immediate groggy few moments as you awaken, okay, it is a powerful habit to watch your intention video, or to run your I feel grateful routine, or to state positively the outcomes you're looking for the upcoming day, okay, and to try to get the feelings that thing has already happened, okay, that you've already achieved it, because the unconscious mind is very accessible in that short window of brainwave activity. So it makes a lot of sense to consciously program your unconscious at its most receptive time. Now, I know this works, but even if you don't believe me, running a good story in your mind will feel better than a bad one. It will release nicer hormones into your body, which will affect the cell receptors to have more receptors for happy chemicals. You know this story, okay? Health and well-being, okay, especially emotional health, it's an inside job, and only you can do it. So, in summary, sleep is far more vital than you've ever been told. Its benefits for biological and mental health are incredible, and I would advocate that you dedicate at least 6 months of your life to exploring it. I did, and it changed my life profoundly. So, until the next video, sweet dreams.